Hey guys, welcome back to Learn Web API in 7 days course. In this video, we are going to create ASP.NET Web API, and we will be doing the following things with the API. So we'll be creating a basic employee model as a separate DLL, and we will try to use that model in the Web API, and then we will be returning that model as JSON, and also we will be returning the same model as XML, and then we will try to overload a couple of Web API methods for get and post. So let's just get started. Here I'm going to have this Visual Studio, and here I already have a Web API project in here, which we used in our previous video. Now what I'm going to do here is let's create one more project which will actually define our employee model. So for that I'm going to create a simple class library, a framework class library. I'll call it employee say view model, so I'll call it employee VM, and I'll say OK. So it has created a new project in here which will be referenced in our API application, and then you can see here there is a class. Let's rename it. I'm going to call it employee. Okay, now it's asking whether the class name should also be renamed or not, so let's rename the class name also. Now we're going to define a couple of methods here. Let's say public string employee name, and then we have to define the getter and setter for this method. So you can see here this is actually employee method which we just created in this class. I'm going to create a couple of more methods here, and then we will set the reference of this employee class in our API, and then we will use this class in our API project. So I have three properties here for this employee class. One is employee name, employee code, and then I'm going to define one more called salary. So, and both these properties as of now I'm keeping as string only, otherwise we have to typecast. Okay, now let's build this project here. Once the project is built, and then we are going to reference this project in here in our API application, and for that I have to do this, add reference. So I'll be adding a reference for this project. For adding reference in solution, we can, since this employee VM is in the same solution, so I'm going to select this here and just say OK. Now the references come here. Now I'm going to use this employee class in here in my MVC controller. So what I'll do is instead of having this thing here, a simple set of strings, now I'm going to return an object of employee. Now for that, what I'll do here, I'll say employee VM dot employee. Okay, now there are three properties in fact in that. So let's just initialize those properties. Our first property is employee name. Okay, so let's say employee name is ABC, and then our second property, comma, second property is employee code. Let's say employee code is 001, and then the salary of the employee. Let's say salary is $4,500. Okay, so it's complaining, look like something is wrong here. Okay, now it is saying the return type is different. So since now we are returning employee, so we have to change the return type of the controller method also. So earlier it was returning enumerable collection of strings, now it should return a employee object. Now it's good here. You can see here this salary I have misspelled, so let's correct it. And for that I can correct it here, and then I can say rename this to this, and it will automatically rename it wherever the reference is used. Okay, yep. So now let's go to values controller. You see this is corrected here. So this is one of the feature which we have in Visual Studio. You guys might already be knowing about it, but I just try to explain it. Now earlier we were returning a collection of strings. Now I'm returning an employee object. So let's run the app and see how. So again, it's like consecutive runs, so it is going to take less time than before. We know that this is our I didn't change the controller name, so the API call will remain the same as it is. Now we should get a hit here. It's running, loading the debug symbols. Yeah, everything is loaded. Now you can see here the hit is come. It's creating an employee class object and it's returning it. So I'll let it run and see in the browser. Now you can see here it is returning employee class object in JSON format. So, but this JSON format is not the default format. So I did actually setting in global.exx. So in global.exx, what I did, I removed XML formatting. So let's just enable it and see what happens. Since by default Web API returns XML, and we have kernel in the configuration for Web API to return JSON object. Now let's see what is coming here. I'm going to remove this debug point also because it's stopping here again and again. Should be pulling it up. Now we should get a XML because I have removed that JSON formatting. Okay, so we are getting this employee XML here. Now what we can do is we can actually return a list of employees, and for that we can simply override this get method. So what we can do, since we cannot have exactly same method signatures here in overloading, so I'm going to call it get employee. Okay, and then I'm going to have this I list here, which is basically a list of employees, and then we will be returning a list of employees here. So let me initialize this. emp list is equal to new list of employee, Okay, and then we need to add our employee objects to this list. So we have to do this here, and then take this portion out, because this is our employee initialization. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create say my first employee. Okay, then and this is going to be my employee type. Okay, now let's define one more employee here. This is let's say second employee, and then let's change the attributes also. So I'll call it XYZ, and ID I'll create make it as 002. Let's make salary as $34560. Now we have initialized these two employee classes here. Now we need to add these classes into this employee list collection, otherwise it will be blank. So I'm going to add this dot add, and then I'll take the first employee into it, and then I'll take the second employee into it. Okay, now I have added both the employee into the list, and I'm returning a list. Okay, so by default we will get this hit if we didn't provide method name. If we provide method name, then we will get this. So let's try this, run the app and see what happens. So this is my default call, because I'm not providing a method name here. Okay, now let's see what happens. In this case I should get this employee in XML form. It's running, it's pulling the information. Yes, you see this? So it's saying I'm finding a method overloading which is having similar names. So we need to have the method name as something else. So in the real essence, if you see this, these two methods are not overloaded for API, because what it is saying for me this is also get and this is also get, and the API is not able to differentiate both these methods. Okay, so this is one of the things which we should understand. Even though we are giving a different name to the API, but since the get keyword is prefixed before this method name, so API runtime is going to consider both these methods as one. Now in order to differentiate it, we have to provide a parameter here. Okay, now we have a parameter, and now let's run it. So now the API should be happy because the methods are overloaded. So it's loading, it's pulling the information from here. It takes some time, and machine is also a little bit slow. Yeah, it's carrying the information, pulling. Yeah, we got the first employee. Now we know that we have another method which is called get employee. And that method actually takes one parameter called ID. Okay, ID, yeah. Now I think I should get different hit here. It's saying matching API values controller. So yeah, I think we have to remove this here. Yeah, I won't find it. So okay, so still there's some issue. So let's just comment this out and just keep this as get and keep this also on, and then we will run it and see what happens. I think we should be able to run it. And our method call will be like id which equal to say 0 1. It's running. It should come here. Okay, still there is some issue. Okay, so it's still complaining about this. Now I'm going to totally comment this out, and this is going to work now. Okay, the commenting is not done yet. Yeah, let's save it and run it. So this is how a method overloading can be done using a custom API model, and to run the API. So now this is the hit I'm expecting. Still there is some problem, so looks like we have to remove this parameter. It's not taking it properly. Now I should be able to run it correctly. It's taking it, it's pulling it up. Takes time actually. That is because it's runs on custom. Now you can see here I've got the list of the employees which I defined in this method. Now one thing which I wanted you guys to notice is that if you see this, and so there is already one get method defined here, and because of this method it was complaining. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to uncomment this and comment this one, so our get method was already overloaded and we were trying to overload another method which is not allowed. So now I'm going to do string id. Okay, now I have this method which is my normal method, and then I have an overload of this method. This one will return one employee, this one will return a list of employees. Now when I run it, I should be able to get a list of employees when I provide the parameter in the URI. Okay, so I'll say id equal to 001. Yeah, it's pulling it, and we should be able to get a list of 2 employees here. Yeah. So this is how we can overload 2 API methods. These 2 API methods are overloaded. We were having the issue because we already having another method which was overloading the get method. So thank you for watching this video, and see you in next lecture.